This week on the Health Wealth podcast, we're talking addiction. Talking some very serious subjects and some very deep topics. My guest this week is Connor Blennerhassett. He's had a very difficult life. He's had many challenges that he's had to work through. He's suffered with drug and alcohol addiction, been involved in organised crime, and now he's turning it around and he's looking to be a positive influence to others who are also suffering with those issues. So we're going to go deep into them. Some really interesting topics we get into. Connor's super open and raw with everything and honest, and it's really going to be helpful for anyone who's been in a similar position to him before. Also a reminder that the free community is up and live now. If you want to learn about health and fitness and how to optimize your diet for every part of your life, get signed up. It's completely free. The link's going to be in the description, and let's jump on into the show. So, Connor, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time. Just give us a little introduction to yourself, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Connor. Essentially, I have taken on a massive life change recently. I've decided to go sober after probably 8 or 9 years of being a binger, I would say, drink and drugs. And yeah, been a massive part of my life for, as I say, nearly a decade. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I had enough, and I just sort of thought, right, what can I do? And I sort of seen that there'd been a massive uplift of people doing a similar sort of thing and putting videos out there and content out there about this kind of problem, and I wanted to join in, and I wanted to inspire others to, yeah, potentially do the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I think, and as you said, you're putting daily content out on Instagram. Before the end of the show, we'll share where everyone can find you and follow you. So, if anyone's in that kind of mindset, they're in that position, then Connor's got some great content. You just sharing your story, just roaring as it is.
Yeah, it isn't polished. It really isn't. There is no lack in authenticity when it comes to the stuff that I'm putting out. I'm putting out, stories that happened throughout my years of using, the tips that I'm finding. One thing that I'm sort of very out in the open about is that I'm no expert in this. This is very much going to be a trial and error for me. And I'm thankful for all the people that have. One thing that I will say is that I didn't realize how many people are out there that are going through similar struggles. Like, as I said, very early days with what I'm doing, but the amount of messages that I've received from people who are just like me and you, who are going through the exact same things, has been overwhelming, really. And people have been very kind enough to say that they respect what I'm doing and everything like that. So, yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it for I've been a content creator.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing. That's the thing that makes it so great that you are sharing your stories, because there are so many people in those positions. And I think for most people in that position, they probably don't think there's many other people going through that. So the more people that are sharing their experiences, the better it is. And people can feel, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. Someone else has been
No.
through this. They've got through it. And I think that's really helpful to people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a taboo around this kind of thing, right? People are a bit ashamed to admit that
Yeah.
they either have a problem with certain substances or certain behavioral types and engaging in certain behaviors, gambling, etc. But actually, we're human. We're all human, and we are all prone to and all fall victim to certain problems. We all have our own vices. We all have our own demons. And yeah, what I found very helpful was people out there, just as you say, just being totally raw and honest with others, and that's what I'm aiming to do as well. But there is a taboo around it for sure. People are ashamed by it, and so that's what I aim to do. Really, sort of break that barrier between. Listen, look, you're not a criminal. You're not no lesser than anyone else just because you struggle with an illness, which is exactly what addiction is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's brilliant. And I think, anything you can do to get the message out there, I think is a great job. Now, people tuning into the podcast won't know this, but I knew Connor years and years ago. I coached him at football when he was a kid. I mean, you were probably between about 12 and 16, something like that. And
Yeah, around 13 or 14, yeah.
there's a huge amount of your story that I had no idea about back then. I mean, a lot's happened since, but even the stuff from before, I had absolutely no idea about. So, let's jump into your story. Let's find out about you. about what you did. So kind of take us right back to the beginning, because I know, the your struggles, the things you went through started right back in your childhood. So just take us
Yeah.
back to wherever you feel is a good start, and let's learn a bit about you.
Yeah, so I was born into a family. So essentially, I've got five brothers and I've got five sisters. So there's 10 of us in total. Sorry, 11 of us in total, and I'm sort of smack bang right in the middle of them. So I was born to a mum who unfortunately had similar struggles that I'm experiencing. It was very much in our family as well. Um, and yeah, so she was in a position where it wouldn't have been the best for me if I stayed with her. So I actually grew up with my auntie and uncle, who I, of course, call mum and dad because I've been with them ever since, I remember. Similarly, with my other siblings, they went to other members of the family because, they didn't want to see them go into the care system, because of course, I've got five brothers and sisters that did go into the care system. And yeah, we don't speak, I don't know really who they are. So that's really sad. So yeah, so five of us went into other sort of members of the family. My sister, for example, went to my other auntie, and my brother went to my nan, etc., etc. So but listen, my mum, my real mum, died when I was around 8 or 9 years old. um I didn't really have anything to do with her because of the life that she was living, but she was a good person. From everything that I've been told, she was a good person, but she suffered her demons, right? And she had her problems. But from everyone that I've spoken to, they said that she was a real good person at heart. So, as I said, grew up with my auntie and uncle, call them mum and dad. My dad, no one really knows who my dad is, my real dad, I mean. All that they know is that he was a good looking bastard. So, but no, got brought up by my auntie and my uncle, and what a godsend they were. I mean, really, because they took me out of a situation that was pretty precarious and could have gone really sort of south, and they gave me everything. Just everything I could have wanted. I went on all the school trips. I mentioned to you before, I played academy football as a youngster, and academies would always put on coaches, so you could get to each game, because some of them were like Liverpool, Southampton. My dad would always drive me. We would always be together driving. I had all the latest boots. I just got given an amazing childhood, man, and there was nothing I could have. There's nothing I could ever do to repay them for that. So when I tell people that story, they sort of are like, "Oh, you must have that must really hurt, and you must have some trauma." Absolutely not. That would be such a cop out to blame it on that, right? Because I got given everything I could have ever wanted, and I got brought up really, really well. So I had a pretty normal childhood apart from that, really. And then 16 come, and I stopped playing football, and I started to sort of go out and that kind of things, and sort of get involved in that life. I was never a big drinker, never. I used to you 15, 16, you go to these house parties, and you start to get drink, and I would always chuck my drink behind the sofa or chuck them in the bush, and pretend I was sort of drinking, because I just didn't like the taste and I didn't enjoy it, blah 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 blah. And then sort of we get a little bit older, and football, obviously, I'm taking less seriously, and I started to get involved with. I start to be in the vicinity of drugs. I start to be aware of drugs and what exactly they were. And then it just spiraled very, very quickly into. So I would first started selling, because I never used to touch it, but all of my friends sort of did. So an older guy who used to sell sort of entrusted me with a certain amount that I would, just so he didn't have to come back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually I started trying it. And the first couple of times, to be honest with you, I can't think of like a eureka moment, like, oh, I found my thing. But I do remember it becoming a lot more frequent, and then actually it got to a stage where I'd start giving the drugs away, because I just wanted people to be on the same sort of vibe as me. And it just sort of spiraled quite heavily out of control from there, really.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes it's just so easy to, if you just slip in with the wrong group, and it can easily just start to
to go away quite quickly. I mean, did you, when obviously the guy approached you and was asking you about selling drugs and stuff, I mean, what kind of things crossed your mind then? Did you just think, yeah, that's fine, like it's a normal thing? Were you kind of around drugs enough for it not to seem that weird, or were you a bit cautious about it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I was obviously taken away from a situation as a youngster, away from that life, right? But the way it was sort of coming in, it was so normalized that it was like, yeah, well, okay, everyone, I've just started going out and everyone is doing this. So it's pretty normal, right? And when I look back, this is probably a bit dramatic, but I was probably
Mhm.
groomed in a way, like, the
Yeah.
guy, fresh new BMW and nice watches, and he was like, "Come on, you can do this, and this can be you one day, etc." And yeah, so there was a little hint of that, but there wasn't like, I can't remember a conscious decision to go, right, I'm going to sell drugs.
Yeah.
um but yeah, it was a very much natural sort of ability to then go, oh, then I don't need to pay for it. And
Yeah.
but when I think about this, right, I remember it very clearly, the day where I kind of knew, oh shit, like, I do this now. And then that allowed me to sort of look introspectively and think, I've always had an addictive personality. I was born prematurely. I was very ill as a child. Whether that was down to my mother's addictions, I don't know. But essentially, I was born, I think, with addictive tendencies. So I can even go back to school. I used to get given dinner money every day because I didn't used to get packed lunches. I would spend my dinner money before we got to school on sweets, and that was it. Sugar was my thing, and it was just, yeah, I had to get sugar. I also got like ADHD as well, to a very sort of high level. I've never been treated for it because I kind of think that's like, you're muting yourself, you're muting your whole personality. But yeah, when you've got sort of addictive personalities and ADHD, it's like, yeah, it's not a good combo. But yeah, like the first thing was sugar, and then obviously the drink done nothing for me. But then when I started to use drugs, it was like, oh yes, I've found my thing. And nothing else ever interested me. So I've never been a festival goer. I've never delved in or experienced or experimented with other stuff. It was very much this one drug that just had me from the offset.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it's sugar as well is really really addictive. It's as addictive as
Oh,
drugs. So I mean that's
yeah.
saying dealing with diet and nutrition a lot more as we do. It's sugar is an addiction. Food addiction is a real thing as well, which people need to appreciate. So I mean, obviously you got into that. You're dealing drugs. What happened from there? Like, was that over a couple of years you were doing that? Did it end sourly? What happened with it?
Yeah, so I mean, I was probably the least successful drug dealer ever. Like I said, I realised that it wasn't for me sort of relatively straight away because, again, I would just got myself in a bit of bother with, obviously owing money and things like that. Um, but I kind of wiggled myself out of it, like I always sort of did. But I know in terms of time frame, we're looking at, I reckon, from a span of, because I was still working at this point. I was still working and everything like that. It's not like I was lazing around trying to find something to do. I was working, and I just thought, I want to go out. I'll bring a bit with me, and whatever. Um, but yeah, I would say 3 or 4 months, that period where it took me to go from, I'm going to start selling this for you, to, oh shit, I've done it all and I've got nothing to show for it. And yeah, push come to shove pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, did you during that time, did you ever have any kind of close brushes with the law or anything like that?
No, no, I managed to evade the law, mostly because I would become so paranoid that I wouldn't want to leave the house.
Mm,
So really, and that's the scary thing, really, is that yes, it happened gradually with me, and yes, of course, my story's like everyone else's. Right? It starts off as the party drug, it starts off as the this that, but then it gets to the point where you're sitting on your own, with all the doors locked, all the curtains closed, and you're just petrified of anyone coming to the house or the door.
yeah.
God forbid, your parents coming round or anything like that, so it really takes a hold of you pretty quickly, and that was pretty evident in my case that it took a bad turn.
Yeah. Okay. So then where did you go from there? Once you packed that in, and were you still kind of using drugs even when you weren't dealing them, and what kind of happened next?
Listen, so I'll be honest with you. I moved to London. I got a job in London. The reason I got a job in London is because I knew there was people making money in London, and I had a romanticization with working in the city at that point. And so yeah, moved to London. Initially started living with my family, who were in London at the time, just because of it was easier for me to then go in and get in my own place anyway. But yeah, then I started earning my own money, and I started earning good money. And then, of course, the London life comes where it just never stops. And, people would do what I was doing, but then go to work at like 8 o'clock. And I would just be like, what? That's the last thing I want to do, when I'm using drugs. But yeah, it definitely exacerbated matters for sure. And then, of course, I have my own place. I'm earning good money, and I start to get involved with people who actually, these guys wouldn't have pissed on me if I was on fire. But they were using me for, not that I was a millionaire or anything, but they were using me for the place that I had, and the money that I was making. And then, my use just got so chaotic. It just got it couldn't have continued like it was. And then I got the chance to go to Asia, and this is a story in itself. So I've just been sacked, right? Just been sacked. I'm sitting on Indeed. I'm literally just going for Indeed and going for Indeed, going for Indeed. Then something comes on Indeed, telesales, Southeast Asia. And I'm thinking, what the hell is that? Apply for it. Then I'll get a call from a number in Edinburgh to say, oh, you've applied for this, blah, 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 blah. Would you describe yourself as impulsive? Yeah. Would you describe yourself as like a good salesman? Yeah. Anyway, so this period goes on. I'm not going to go too much into it, but next thing I know, I've got a flight booked for me going to Indonesia. And I'm thinking, this isn't real. So I download the Qatar Airways app at the time. Download the Qatar Airways app, and then put the booking reference in. It's like, well, let's see if these are talking serious. And then bang, your flight this day, London to Doha, Doha to Jakarta. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is real. So then I got the opportunity to escape the mess I was in, the cycle I was in, to go out to Asia and work for this company. Now, I didn't know this at the time, obviously going over there, of course, but this turned out to be a pretty big organized crime syndicate. And it's known all over the world now. And the sort of derogatory term for it is a boiler room. It's basically sham investments. And listen, I was involved in that world for a few years. It took me sort of all over the place. But what it allowed me to do was stay away from the drugs. I was in Asia. I'm not a drinker. I'm really not a drinker. Once I know I can't get drugs, I'm not going to drink because it's pointless to me. So the reason I loved it so much is because I could live a normal life out there. I could go to work, go to the gym, have a good group of friends, go to the cinema, do this, do that, do everything that everyone normal does in the UK that I was incapable of doing in the UK because all I wanted to do was sit in the pub and use drugs. So that's why I really, really enjoyed it so much. But then, it comes a point where I was back every 6 months. I was back every 6 months because I needed my blowout. But yeah, man, I mean, that job took me to like 15 different countries, Eastern Europe, all over Asia. An opportunity came once, and I almost went to Costa Rica. And I just thought, you may as well just pre-plan my funeral at that point, going to South America. You know what I mean? Like that, just like a kid in a sweet shop.
Hi guys, now I don't promote many products because most of them are just pure marketing, and I'm not going to recommend anything that I don't personally believe in. However, when I do find a good product, then I'm more than happy to share it with you all. So I'm excited to share Hazard Toys. They're combining fitness and fun for your little ones. Hazard Toys specialises in soft, plush, fitness-themed toys for newborns and up. These adorable toys promote healthy habits early on with plush, dumbbells and kettlebells that are perfect for tiny hands. Each toy includes a small rattle, which is fantastic for sensory development and keeping little ones entertained. And Hazard Toys integrates physical activity into playtime, enhancing motor skills and coordination. So we've teamed up with Hazard Toys for an exclusive offer. You can use the code HEALTH10 for 10% off any toy or bundle. You get free speedy UK delivery from the local warehouses, and you can get a free ebook, Dreams of Pink Plant Woods, with every purchase. So don't miss out and use the code HEALTH10 today.
Oh man, I mean that's nuts. I mean that's crazy. Did you, when you had this opportunity, how long was it that you got into it that you kind of realized it was kind of a scam, fraud based thing that you'd signed up to?
When I received my first sort of lot of money, I think that, they tell you the first week is totally training, and they tell you, look, how would you feel if one of your investors potentially lost some money and blah 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 blah. And the way it's done is so brilliant, and I really need to be careful on how much I say, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's done so professionally, and it's you just would never know. There's so many TV programs out there that you can go and watch and realize exactly what these people are doing. But yeah, I think it was probably 3.5 weeks when I got my first deal. So I've written a couple of deals before that, but it didn't pay. So, but this one paid, and this was, so the way that it would work is you would get a percentage of the people that you opened, and then if they invested more money down the back end, you would get a percentage of that as well as a bit of a kickback. But you would essentially get 15% of everything they initially opened with you. And yeah, I think we would get paid in US dollars cash. And yeah, my first deal was worth like 6.5 grand. So I got my 20%, which is of course, $1,500, $1,600 or something, which is nothing. But when I got it there, it was like, it's the first time I'd ever seen $100 bill. I was like, this is just crazy. Like, wow. And then once you learn the business and you really learn the script and everything they give you, and because it works, it bloody works. Yeah, I mean, parts of it was like living in a movie. I mean, it really was. Like, we weren't allowed to know where the office was. You got your phones took off you. Just absolutely mental stuff. But yeah, it allowed me to earn some really, really. I hate saying good money, because actually it was money that I should never have earned, and that industry should not exist, because it's innocent people that are being tricked, basically. What I can say is that we were not targeting pensioners, that were giving us their last sort of bit of money. The people that we were sort of dealing with and sort of having conversations with were multi-millionaire business owners. So that made me feel a little bit better, but still, as someone now who's come a lot closer to my faith, and actually just grew up and learned what type of man I want to be, I feel really sort of bad about that sort of portion in my life. But it taught me a hell of a lot, and actually, I'll take a lot of everything that I learned, both professionally and out of that experience, into whatever I go on and do.
Yeah, there's always lessons to be learned, isn't there, from good experiences and bad experiences. There's always things you can learn and you can take from it. And we've all done stuff before that we weren't proud of, but all you can do is try and do better in the future,
Of
and move
course.
forward. And like you said, learn from it. Then obviously I know you said as well that in 2020, things kind of came to a head a little bit for you. So talk us through some of that and what went on.
Yeah, so 2020 was really, of course, the pandemic hit. And yeah, the whole world stopped as we knew it, right? And I think a lot of people with mental health problems or addictions or anything like that were heavily worsened during this period, because we're isolated, and that's the worst thing as addicts you can do, is isolate yourself. So yeah, listen, I had to come back, obviously, to the UK. I was in the UK. And yeah, I spent basically every penny that I had. So I needed to sort of come up with funds, and because I needed to feed my habit. So I knew that people looked at me as being pretty successful, because they see me flying around the world, and living in London, blah 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 blah. Sort of fake, I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not, but that's exactly what Instagram is, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're pretending to be someone else, but yeah, so I knew that people had this perception of me, so I basically used it to my advantage. I think that I had carefully crafted this message, right? And this message was to say that I was stuck at a train station. I had my phone was about to die. I'd lost my wallet, or it had been pickpocketed, and the card that I had in my wallet I didn't have on Apple Pay, so that I couldn't use, and I couldn't transfer it because I didn't have my secure key. Anyway, like, really spent some time carefully, and I basically pinged a message out to 100 people on my Facebook and everything like that. And I remember I think I was asking for like 60 quid, and what I would say I would do is send it back to you, like when I got home or whatever, with an extra 20 quid as a drink, just absolute, oh God, I'm cringing thinking about it. But I remember so vividly, it was one afternoon, in 2 hours, I got about 1,600 quid from strangers, that I had on Facebook, that I just said, look, I'm in this situation. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely a low point, because you're taking advantage of other people's kindness. And yeah, so that's something that will sit with me for a long time. Obviously, I've gone through and I've paid everyone back now. So when you think about the drug dealers and stuff, it's like, fuck them. I don't care about them. It's the people that that were just trying to help, that I brought into this scenario, that actually I won't forget for a hell of a long time. So definitely during COVID, my use really sort of spiraled. And but again, it was binges because really, who can afford to just continuously use the most expensive drug there is? But really, it was like I'd go 3 or 4 days, and then my body would just sort of give up, and then I wouldn't touch it for 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. I would never send a message like the ones I told you about, sober. It would always be when I was running out. It would always be, because it was like, I cannot experience this. This cannot be the end. And then you just pull it out like 93rd minute winner. It's an awful thing, but using drugs is about as destructive as it gets. But that was a long time ago. That was 4 years ago now. And I'd like to say since then, interestingly, is when I started to experiment with getting clean, and really doing something about this, because it robbed me of the person that I wanted to be, that I actually knew that I was, of the Connor that people used to know. And that really sat with me, And of course, whilst all this is going on, Ryan, you've got my parents who loved and adored me, took me out of a situation, done everything they could for me, just watching me destroy my own life. And that's sad. That is like so horrible to think about, because it's like, well, why did we even bother? You're now choosing this life that we took you out of. So yeah, that's when I sort of thought, okay, I need to do something about this now.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about your mum and dad there having to watch you go through it. How did all of this affect your relationship with them?
Oh, it ruined it. Oh, I mean, totally. Yeah, totally ruined it. Yeah, just I just lacked all, when I was on drugs specifically. I just lacked all genuine personality. It was all bravado and ego and just fakeness. So yeah, really, particularly my dad. Me and my dad had always got on so well, and they knew what was going on, and it was really tough for them to kind of watch. And of course, they would there's been situations where they've known I've owed people money or whatever like that. I've been quite lucky. Like no one's ever like no one's smashed my house up or come to the door demanding money or anything like that at all. But you know, there's been situations where my dad said to me, "Look, I have to walk around like with my head down, like ashamed, like I don't want people to talk to me. People know what you are." And you know, I was kind of looking at it again because it's never our fault. I was looking at it from, what do you mean? Like I've earned loads of money in my life. You know, like I've brought you on holiday twice. You know, I've done this, I've done that. I've been to this many countries. You know, I've got this watch, that, and you know, what the hell are you talking about? But actually, it's the bad outweighs the good by a hell of a lot. They would rather. My dad said to me so many times, "Con, like, I'd rather you worked in Asda and were just a normal, happy boy than the life that you're living now." And that strikes home, because it's like, this shit doesn't mean anything. It's actually about the type of man that you are and how people respect you. Can people trust you? And no one could trust me. No one can trust me. And I think that, you know, over the last couple of years, really battled hard to turn that around and to show people that I've changed and things like that. But yeah, there was a point where I never robbed anything. I never, like, that's another thing as well I'd always look down on, because I'd never like robbed or, you know, gone stealing cars or anything like that. I'd never done that because it's a different type of addiction, you know, kind of thing. But it's all the same. It's all the same, damaging wise.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What's your, obviously, you know, you're on your road to recovery. How's your relationship with your mum and dad now? Is that in a better place?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Listen, they always gave me the benefit of the doubt. How, because there was a few times where I had to go and live back at home, and how they even like put up with me and kept giving me chances and bailing me out. And because what I would do, especially in the early stages, just spunk all my money and just expect my dad to pay my train fares, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's like, you're an adult now, Connor. What are you actually playing at, kind of thing. But yeah, much better place now. You know, we have very genuine conversations, and I actually think down the line, as long as I sort it out now, as long as I nip it in the bud, and we can all look back on this as, you know, a really bad period and a lot of lessons that had to be learned, then I actually think it will be very good for us and our relationship as a family. But it has to stop. And I realized that a couple of years ago, but it's a process. It's never going to happen overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, addiction's not easy. It's not easy to get over at all. It takes a lot of people a lot of time to get over it, and some people never do. So, you know, it's not easy. And you know, it's great that you had that type of people around you, because you know, some people in some families, you know, their family might give up on them or might abandon them, or you know, just push them to one side and be like, you know what, it's enough. So the fact that they sort of stood by you, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, as I said, I know how lucky I am, and yeah, that they should have really got, you know, sort of parted ways a long time ago, but they never did. They know my potential as a human being, you know, like, and I think now it is really going to help with, actually, you may have heard a lot of things about me, but actually you don't know me. You don't know me at all. I think my heart's definitely in the right place. You know, I'm someone as well, mate. If I've got it, I'll give it. I am like, I'm so empathetic. I understand a hell of a lot. I want to help people, and I'm not this sort of monster or, you know, little tramp that people may have a perception of me of. You know, it's crazy, the world. But I think a lot of that, especially in sort of my hometown and your old hometown as well, people like to look down on others because it makes them feel better about themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's that's okay. If they want to do that, then that's absolutely fine. But there was a hell of a lot of that, and a lot of misinformation as well. to go on that. So actually, a lot of this is about setting the record straight, and a lot of this is about, you know, going forward. How do I want to be, and hopefully the comparisons, the polar opposites, will be evident.
Yeah, absolutely. And social media is like that, you know, in this day and age, it makes it even worse that, you know, people think they know someone because they hear certain things or they see certain things on social media. You never know what's going on. I say, I was your football coach for 4 or 5 years. I didn't have a clue about any of the stuff that had already even happened in your life at that point. You know,
Yeah,
you don't know what people are going through. So yeah, I think it's important that people, before they judge, you know, stop and listen, find out why this
yeah.
person maybe behaves that way, why they maybe do
Mm.
that. And I think if we can be a bit more understanding, it would help a lot. But I think social media is definitely one of the driving things behind why people aren't anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think it's the most damaging thing we've introduced as a society, for sure. I mean, listen, it's great in so many ways, and we wouldn't be able to do things, like this, if
Yeah.
it wasn't for social media. But I think about, kids. I know you've got little ones. At some point, I hope to too. Bringing kids into this world is a scary concept right now. When you have things like sex being normalized at a younger age, we have drugs. It's almost weird if you don't do drugs now. And on a bigger scale, the gambling is being pushed down, the vapes are being pushed down people's throats, the bullying. I feel sorry for the girls in this day and age, where they have to, that constant comparing to what others are doing, and it can be really damaging, because I've done the same thing. I've
Mm.
gone down my TikTok and seen 21-year-olds driving Lamborghinis in Dubai and thinking, well, I want to be that guy, and you can get really depressed about it.
Mm.
I mean, I've always been quite lucky. I think I mentioned this on one of my videos. I'm so lucky. I've been in some, I think you'll understand by now, I've been in some pretty bad situations in my life, pretty worrying situations, but I've got this innate ability to just always see the bright side of life. Am I still breathing? Yes. Have I, okay, then it's another day. And I'm so lucky to not be in a battle with my own head. Whereas, a lot of the people these days are, and social media can for sure be a big factor in that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that positive outlook that you have, that's going to be a huge factor in you being successful with this, because as you said, you know, your mindset, that's where everything begins, is your mindset. Every situation,
Yeah.
you can choose to see it positively, negatively. And, you know, if you're that glass half full kind of guy, then you're going to be much more likely to succeed with something like that. So that's definitely a good thing. I know you mentioned earlier as well that at one point you kind of found your faith again, which helped a bit. So was that
Yeah.
something, had you had faith, you've been like to church and stuff as a kid and then got back into it? What happened with that?
Yeah, so I was born a Catholic. I was born, so obviously baptized and christened and everything like that, and Holy Communion, etc. So I was born into a religious family. My nan, especially, was very God squad. She was, yeah, proper into it, and like any kid, I sort of, didn't understand the weight of it, and just wasn't too interested in it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think it's only very recently, my nan, who I speak of just now, isn't very well, and I kind of just started remembering everything, the times that we spent together, and actually, when I remember, everything had something to do with the church or her faith, or this and that. So I remember the Bible, and I started to read it, and I'd always had the same outlook on it as I think a lot of the people do, the misconceptions of like, oh God, and people just switch off, and and I thought the Bible was just, oh, preach God, but it actually isn't. The Bible, yes, okay, in the Old Testament it talks about how we came about, and the story of Moses, and Elijah, whatever, but the Gospels and Jesus, and everything like that, all it is it's just teaching you what kind of man you need to be, what kind of person should you be. And I know for a fact that ever since I got closer to my faith and learned about Jesus, and everything like that, life feels easier when you feel like you've got someone watching over you, and someone that you can talk to about literally anything. And I know I know full well he's proves it to me on a daily basis. If you talk to God, he will answer. And he does it in the most clever ways sometimes. Sometimes you don't notice it. And sometimes, what you think is your plan isn't your plan. And you have to trust him in that regard. But for sure, really, really helped me in my recovery for sure. But actually, just in terms of the person that I want to be, the man that I want to be, how I want people to view me, respect me, see me, that's been a massive part of it, Ryan, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm Christian. I grew up in a Christian family. I've always been Christian and going to church. So I think that's great. I think, like you said, the Bible, as you said, especially the New Testament, is just a guide for how to live as a good
Yeah,
person. That's how
yeah,
you can literally look at it. And I think for whatever religion people choose to follow, I think having something to believe in, I think is a real good thing for people, whatever they choose that to be. I think people who say they don't believe in anything, I think that's kind of a sad place to be. And I think having
yeah.
something to believe in and something to kind of lean on is always a good thing, especially in these kind of times.
Yeah, so listen, I love podcasts and things, and I sit up there, and Jordan Peterson, of course, and Richard Dawkins, and people like this, and Alex O'Connor is another one that I really like, and I agree with you. I think if you're because an atheist is someone who doesn't believe, right? But
Yeah.
agnostic is someone who's not sure. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
So I think if you're outright dismissing it, then you just haven't done your research. You haven't really looked into it. You haven't opened your heart, your mind to it yet, because the overwhelming evidence for Jesus of Nazareth is just crazy anyway. But actually, if you opened your, if you're a bit more, if you're a bit less ignorant for just a second, and you'd find life a lot easier, because as you said, it just feels like you're working towards something. We are all working towards something. We are just here doing from what I believe anyway. And I don't want to sound, I'm really not a preacher, but I believe now that we are missionary. We are here to do a job, and then we are granted eternal life, or we are not. And that's just the way I look at it now. So when I do, so to bring it to what might be relatable for others, when I'm in the split second of do I go and get drugs or do I not, it's like I just I admit powerlessness, and I seek help, and then I go and do what I need to do. I go and splash water on my face. I say a quick prayer, and I promise you, 90% of the time, I'm given the strength to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also, I think especially, we touched on earlier, you said about COVID, and obviously everyone was shut off then. People were on their own, they were separate, and,
Mm.
people felt very isolated, and that was poor for people's mental health. And I think one of the things with having faith is that you're never on your own. You're never isolated. You've always
Yeah,
got, someone you can talk to, and a sort of a strength you can lean on, like you said there. And I think that's really important because people are not made to be isolated. People are made
no,
to be part of community and to be social. And so to be cut off, I think, has had a huge detrimental effect on people's mental health. We won't have time in this podcast to get too deep into it, but I believe it's deliberate in what they did. You might be on the
yeah,
same page as me, but it's terrible. And I think having that faith is a huge thing, because like I said, even if if you're not Christian, if you're another, having a faith of something that you're not on your own, and you've got help to get through it. I think that's a huge thing. I'm sure from what you're saying, it sounds like, you kind of found that.
yeah, I massively, and when you feel like everything that you do, everything that you seek, everything that you act on is you have someone to to consult, someone to watch over you whilst you do. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a beautiful concept. The fact that, listen, I don't care what you believe, whether you're a science guy. And by the way, there are a hell of a lot of scientists that are faithful people.
Yeah.
You know, I will make that very, very clear. But whether you're a science guy, Big Bang, whatever, um, our brain is the most technologically advanced computer that is seen, as far as we know, in our solar system, right? To think that that was an accident is just that's more unbelievable than the Old Testament. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
to me, it just doesn't make sense, you know. And you know, I won't go too much into it, but the story of how you know, Moses, and when King Herod was killing all of the babies, and they had to stone him down the Nile, and that he got found by Herod's wife, and then they were brought up as an Egyptian, and that you can't come up with that story. That is too perfect. It works in too many different ways for it not to be real for me. So yeah, for sure, that is what I believe, and I think that it's massively helped me in not just addiction stuff like that, but making big life decisions. Should I take this job? Is this girl going to be good for me? You know, is this going to affect my family in a bad way, etc. All these big life decisions. Then just consult the big man.
Exactly. He knows a lot more than we know, so it's always good to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the point you made about, you know, our brain, obviously, you know, diet, nutrition, health is what I'm really big into. And when you really look into it and you see how perfectly everything works, if we get out the way and let nature work, it's so perfect. Like there's no way, like you say, there's no way that I believe that could all be an accident. It's literally absolutely perfect. And if we just got out the way, the whole world would just work
Yeah,
perfectly. The only reason it's being ruined is, you know, because of humans. But
yeah.
yeah, I think I agree with you. It's completely perfect. Um, so listen, you're a work in progress. You're making steps now. Where are you at in your journey now? What have you kind of got to?
Yeah, so I am today day 9, so very early stages. Day 9. Tomorrow I'll be attending my first Cocaine Anonymous meeting. I dabbled with NA before, but I kind of it felt disingenuous from my point of view, because I kind of knew in the back of my head that I was never going to fully stop. I just wanted to learn how to control it, and then I stopped going because everyone in the meetings was saying you cannot control this. So I sort of got my back up a little bit in regards to that. But I'm curious. Listen, I think the way that I would describe myself now is that what needs to stop is the binging. The binging has to stop. I can no longer do this to my body. I can no longer do this to my pocket. Quite frankly, you know, to think of the money I've wasted in my life is just crazy. But money will always come back. But I just want to live healthier. I want to, whether that's being totally sober, or whether that's doing a long stint of it and then learning how to gradually sort of reintroduce it back into my life and being very careful with it in that regard. Whether that's my journey, I don't know. But I know what my mission is now. My first mission is 100 days. Let's get to 100 days without drinking or using drugs, to prove to myself that I can do it. And because that would be the longest that I'd ever gone in 8 or 9 years, whilst I've consistently been in the UK. So that's a massive achievement. I've also moved out of the area that I grew up in now. I've changed numbers. I've done all the little tips and tricks that I've sort of found that are pretty common sense, actually. So I'm just feeling in such a good place, man. Like, you know, work's going really, really well. You know, the relationship that I'm in now is very healthy. And, you know, things are looking up, sort of outside of football and everything like that. I'm in a very good place. So I just kind of asked myself, why would you ruin it?
Yeah.
Why would you go and ruin it all now when everything's going so swimmingly? Why would you choose to ruin it all again? Because I've been there and I've had to restart, and I've restarted this job, and I've got this new girl, and I've done this and that and that. It's just exhausting. But where I'm in such a good place now, I just want to go, right, this is going to be a status quo. Let's keep the wheels on the track. But yeah, 100 days is the initial target, and then we're going to see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you have to do it one step at a time. With something like that, you know, it's not easy. You just want to have one step, like let's get to that first goal, then get to
Yeah,
the next goal,
milestones,
and
right?
just keep it going. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the
Yeah,
way to do
and
it.
I think that the meeting that I'm attending tomorrow, Cocaine Anonymous, I'm a bit sort of apprehensive about what that will entail. Again, it's just it's something that is positive to me because I'm so appreciative of it. I've just got no anxiety. Like I just like people have said to me that have messaging me. I'm so like I really just don't want to go into a meeting. I don't. I'm so lucky because I just don't care. I want like I'll turn up to a Cocaine Anonymous meeting. I'll say hi. My name's Connor. I'm an addict. I don't care about that stuff. So I'm very lucky in that regard because a lot of people would put that stuff off because they're just so caught up on, what will it think, or social anxiety, or this or that. So I'm going there tomorrow. I'm just going to go in there, see what it's like. If it's for me, I'll know, and if it's not, I'll know.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. What in terms of obviously, we've talked about it's with addiction, it's a mental thing. Did you during this time, you said there you didn't really have anxiety, but did you ever get into depression and things like that, or did you not really get affected with that?
No, I mean, listen. I think depression is a word that's thrown around a lot lately, and I think it's overused. And I think as a society, um, yeah, we need to grow up and realize that life isn't sunshine and rainbows, and
Yeah.
that you're sometimes you are going to have a bad day, and sometimes life is going to throw cards at you that you were not expecting to be played, and you've just got to get on with it. But without the risk of sounding too political, I think depression is something that just just bypassed me because, as I said to you, I've been in some pretty low places. No money, owed money to some pretty bad people, really upset my family and let people down, and lost really good jobs. And I mean, proper career starting jobs. And I've just kind of just, shrugged my shoulders and gone, it'll come, it'll come. I know it'll
Yeah.
come. I know a time will come. A friend of mine who I won't name, but we're really, really close, and he has similar issues, not necessarily drugs, but um, his thing is more alcohol, but we have conversations all the time. We have some really deep conversations, and I remember so vividly in every conversation I've had with him, just going, "I know I'll sort it out one day. I know in the nick of time, everything will be all right." So that sort of allowed me to sort of park the depression. Who knows? Maybe I'm in for a big round of it soon. I don't know. And then I'll eat my words.
No, I think that's great that you haven't. And I think you spoke earlier about your positive mindset and always being like, "Ah, I'll sort it out." And I think that's probably got a big bit to do with it because I think depression is a feeling more than an illness to me.
Yeah.
Everyone can get in a bad situation and feel depressed, but then it's how you respond to it. So I think the
Yeah.
fact that you've had that positive mindset has probably helped you to be like, you know what, let's just get on with it and get this sorted out.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, we can all feel sorry for ourselves and sort of, stay stagnant and, overthink things and just replay certain decisions or anything like that. But where realistically is that going to get us?
Yeah.
Life has to go on. The sun will rise in the morning. So just figure out a way to solve it,
Yeah.
rather than belly aching and procrastinating at how it all went wrong in the first place.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Listen, I've taken up a lot of your time, and as we kind of draw to a close with this, what's your message you want to get to people? Like, if someone's in the situation that you were in, and they're looking for help, what's that message that you want to get across to them?
Yeah, key message for me is that first of all, come to my page. It's a very relaxed sort of environment for people to come who are experiencing either substance abuse or addictions in whatever sense of the word. It's where I'm going to share my story. It's where you're going to hear a lot of funny stuff, but serious as well. And actually, I'm going to look to try and build a community of ladies and gentlemen who really want to turn their life around, want to live better and live sober. But my message to someone who is in a similar situation to me is, don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like you're the only one, because I promise you, you are not. there's millions of us out here who experience the same battles that you face every single day, and we all will be stronger together against the demons that haunt us. So yeah, that would probably be my message.
Awesome. That's a good message. I hope that people are going to listen to that and take it on board.
Me
And like you
too.
said, you're not alone. You're not the only one. There's other people
No,
going through it.
yeah,
Before you go,
probably your neighbor. It's the
yeah,
people you don't know. That's what I love about this, is that, addiction and things like that, they don't discriminate.
yeah,
There is no discrimination. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, male, female, old, young, middle class, not middle class. It does not discriminate, and so it really does affect everyone, especially in this day and age. So yeah, you are most definitely not alone, and yeah, speak out, because it will help for sure.
yeah, 100%. And just give us a shout. I'll share your links in the show notes anyway, but just let everyone know what's the Instagram page. People can follow you.
Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok is at consclean1998. So fairly simple. Give us a follow on there. Again, I try to upload daily. There isn't really a structure at the minute. I'm really trying to figure that out as well. This is why I'm trying to, bring people on now. Join me in the early stages of this. Watch me sort of develop as maybe a content creator, and as someone who's really interested in this side, kind of addiction, this therapy, this talking, this community. Yeah, so join now at consclean1998, and yeah, come and join the family.
Awesome. Yeah, I encourage people to do that. Listen, Connor, thanks so much for coming on, and thanks for sharing your story with us, being so honest about it. That's
No
been
worries.
awesome.
Thanks ever so much. Yeah, no, it's been really, really fun. It's the first one that I've done, and yeah, great to do with someone that I know with a friendly face, and yeah, similarly to what you're doing, keep going. I love your content that you're putting out as well on your page. Some very important stuff, and eating clean, and everything that you're doing. So no, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for having me, and yeah, I've had fun.
Awesome. That's no problem. Thank you, everyone else, for listening. We'll see you again next week, and let's get optimal together.